So, welcome everybody, and good afternoon. Thanks for coming for the supported SUSE presentation. So first of all, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Petr Uzel. I'm Engineering Director responsible for packaging and Level 3 support. I'm based in Prague, Czech Republic, and together with me on stage is my dear colleague Lynn.
Hello, my name is Lynn Vance, and I'm from Provo. I manage the SUSE Support team for the Americas. So, welcome.
So, we can start, and let me start with showing you a picture, which looks like this. This is a screenshot of some kernel crash. Frankly, there used to be times where I was able personally to decipher what this is about and eventually also to fix it. That's unfortunately no longer true anymore. But I believe that we all agree that this is not something which we would like to see on the screens of our machines, right? It's not a big problem if this appears on a laptop, unless, of course, you are halfway through preparing your presentation without autosave enabled. But this becomes a real trouble if this happens on environment or in an environment which looks like this on some your business critical machine which is operating, I don't know, a factory or something like that, then it's really worrying. And I presume that your reaction, if that happens on some mission critical server, might look something like this. So panic is understandable. You might start thinking about, thousands of users affected and production down and thousands of dollars or whatever currency you use to keep track of losses being burned, and panic might be the possible reaction. But in this presentation, kind of the key message will be, or which we will try to convey, is that panic is not the most efficient way how to react, but that you should better call SUSE. Well, because as long as you have valid subscription, we cover your back. So that's what we are going to talk about. So in specific, this will be, or what we are going to cover is, well, Lynn will talk about how the SUSE support organization is set up, how to create a perfect support ticket, and not perfect in a sense which would make it easiest for us to resolve that. That's also desirable, but more how the support ticket should look like in order to ensure that the resolution time will be as short as possible. We will mention how to avoid escalations, what you should do to minimize the risks of running into escalations, and still give you some tips and tricks what to do if you run into one. Lynn will talk and elaborate on the SUSE support model. I will talk a bit about Level 3 support, the PTFs, what that is and how why is that good for you. The software patches, maintenance, how these things fit together, and last but not least, Lynn will mention some limits of support and provide some hopefully constructive thoughts what to do in case you are hitting the limits of standard support. So that would be for the introduction, and I'm happy to hand over to Lynn for his part.
Okay. It's yours. Thank you. Hopefully, I guess you can hear me, but hopefully I'm not yelling at you, so it's coming across really loud right here. So in our SUSE support team, we have 8 locations across the globe, kind of strategically placed so that we can do follow the sun type of support, so that when Nuremberg, for example, goes offline at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, then we're already there to hand over a call if necessary, or work with whatever engineer has the current SR. Sometimes I use call. It's really a service request. So with those 8 locations, if you look at all of them, we have 25 plus years of experience supporting SUSE Linux. Again, I already covered that we are across the globe, 8 locations, all the geographies. We've over the last 12 months, we've supported around 3,000 unique customers, and over in 90 countries. So SUSE is a international company, has an international footprint, and so does support. So and we handle around 24,000 incidents in a given year. We have kind of a unique information for a support organization. If you take in all of our support organization across the globe, and this includes people have started within this last year. So some of these are one, but if you do an average, that's a 12-year average of the tenure of people in support that have been doing that. So I find that a little bit unique in a support environment to have that much experience. And that's a good thing, because we need that much experience. Our support team supports a vast portfolio of SUSE products. Everything from the SLES that we started, SLES for SAP, SUSE Manager, some of our newer software-defined products, SUSE Storage, and as we get into the container world, Kubernetes, Docker, and everything else, it's a wide thing for our support engineers. I'm sure as you look at all this and as you go to the classes that we have this week here and look at our different options, you'll find that it's a little bit daunting to support all of that. In our team, I ask people to be conversant in everything so that they can take the call, they can troubleshoot it, they can get it pointing towards a direction. But to expect one person to be a guru, if you want to call it that, in everything is a difficult proposition, if not impossible. And so as the call comes in and this person works with you and gets going and gets it going in a direction, he or she may and probably will involve one of their colleagues, because while I ask everybody to be conversant in everything, then we ask them to be the go-to guy or the guru or whatever word you want to use, and pick a couple of these, each person pick a couple of these and be the go-to person for that, and to be the person that interacts with Petter's team, with development, and so on. So very likely a support engineer is going to involve a colleague and say, you know what, let me get somebody else involved. Let me ask them some questions. Let me follow up with some things. And honestly, that's what we want them to do. We want them to collectively attack these problems, that you're experiencing, and come up with the best solution and the quickest solution for you, which after all is our goal. I mean, our first goal would be to never have you have to call in. Our second goal is to resolve those as fast as possible when you do have to. When you do need to open a service request, as we call it, there's several ways. The primary one is go to SCC. As you have maintenance, as you buy products, you should have a login or an ID for SCC. And this will allow you to go in and create a service request. It'll allow you to go in and it'll have your company. It'll allow you to pick a product that you have, and then based on that product, it will route it to the appropriate set of engineers. So when you're in there, it's going to set, I guess we'll get to it in a minute, but it's going to set, you're going to be able to set a priority, whether it's critical, high, medium, or low. If it is critical, if it's a system down issue, so we want you to call us in that case. Pick up the phone, call. On the next slide, there'll be a URL that'll show you where our SUSE Handbook is, and that will list all the numbers that you can call depending on what country, what geography you're in. So there's different numbers, but those will all be listed in that SUSE Handbook. And in fact, most of what I cover today, except for maybe the data as far as number of SRs and that kind of stuff, most of the process is listed in that SUSE Handbook. So that would be a good thing to have and to go back to once in a while. When you do make a call, whether you open it in SCC or via the phone, gather as much information about the incident as you can. How many users are affected? What happened? Is it a production system, or is this a POC, in the lab? When did it go down? Do you know of any changes that were made recently? And have you worked on a workaround? And let us know what the impact is to your business. because that will help us prioritize it properly as well. And again, we have crash dumps, we have error logs, and we have a support config that we can run against this, that you can run against the servers. All that information will help us come to a more timely and quicker resolution and understanding of your problem. Usually, getting an understanding of the problem is the longest piece, and then from there to a fix is usually more condensed. Once in a while we run into a problem where like, whoa, here's a new one. But for the most part, understanding the problem and getting it to the right people is 90% of the issue. There's that SUSE.com/support/handbook. Most of our information, like I say, is there. Most of this information about how to open an SR, how to prioritize it, there's quite a large amount of information in there. You can open it, well, depending on how you've purchased support, you can have 12x5, you can have priority, which is 24x7. If you want to purchase additional support, premium is an option. Premium has silver, gold, and platinum, and that's a dedicated resource, dedicated or at least semi-dedicated resource. I'll pick on Grant. He's a dedicated resource there in the back of the room. And there's also options such as scheduled standby and those kind of things. If you know you're going to be doing an upgrade or you're going to be doing some configuration changes and you want a dedicated resource for a 4-hour block or an 8-hour block standing by waiting for you specifically, you can talk to your sales people or one of the we call them customer support managers across the world, and they can arrange that. It'd be nice if we got a week or two notice on that instead of tomorrow, but we'll do that. And again, I talked about critical. If the server's down, you guys can't log in, that's critical. It's critical to us, it's critical to you, without question. Oops, missed the button. We also support SLES for SAP, obviously, and that's a big part of our business, is SLES with SAP running on it. In those kind of cases, you have choices. Usually you can open a call with SAP. They will triage it, and if they believe SUSE needs to be involved, we actually have guys that can access their CRM, their call database, and we go in and work the incident with them in their CRM. But at the same time, if you're pretty sure already that it's a SUSE-based problem, then just give us a call or open the SR with us. We also have a group of engineers that over in Germany, what's the name of the town?
Nuremberg?
No, Waldorf, where SAP is.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think
Waldorf. Anyway, regardless, they sit with SAP, and if we need to contact them to try something out or get some more information, their SUSE employees actually sitting directly with SAP. Maybe I talked too fast. I saw Petter looked at his watch a couple of times.
No, I just checked my watch. You have time.
But so obviously we're not done. But any questions up to this point? Please.
One question is the support engineer that you contact when you first put in your ticket, is that the person who's going to be your point of contact throughout the entire process?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They could move it over to one of the other engineers so we have three if you include Petter's team, but we call level 1 or frontline, level 2 backline engineers. About 20% of the calls that come in, we escalate directly to the backline. So in that case, it does change for sure to another owner. Probably in another 20 or 30% of those, we involve a backline. We call it a collaboration request, but we say, hey, come over here and look over my shoulder and while we do this, and they may get on a call with you and whatever. So the answer is no. And if your engineer happens to call in sick or go on vacation, then we will make sure we assign it to one of the other engineers so it doesn't drop through the cracks. We really try not to let SRs drop through the cracks. Yes?
I actually wanted to also add to that. So the first line support and so the first line and front line are actually two different ones. So first
Yeah.
line, those are the CSRs, and then they will work with an available frontline person to try to get somebody to
Yeah.
pull it, especially if it's like a critical case.
Yeah. And our level 1 and level 2 or frontline and backline engineers sit right together. They're cubicle here, cubicle, they're intermingled. They know each other very well. They have a very good working relationship. So they collaborate a lot on SRs, even just kind of over the wall, put you on mute and say, hey, have you seen this? Etc. Any other? I think you're up now.
No more questions. Okay. So, we don't have the timer now.
Yeah, so
okay, that's fine. That's fine. So, I can, use this to talk a bit slower.
all right.
Good. So, in the next section, I'm going to talk about what's actually level 3 support and what are the PTFs, which might be a mysterious acronym which you never came across in the past or not. So let's see. Anyway, my hope is that after this presentation, you will know what it is about. And then what's that good for you? Oh, why is that good for you? So L3 support, 10,000 view on L3 support. Lynn mentioned on one of his former slides that the volume of support incidents which are flowing through the customer support organization has been, I believe, 23,000 tickets in the last 12 months. And obviously there are different types and kinds of support incidents. Some of them are, could be fixed or solved by doing some configuration change. Some might be, problems with subscription. Lynn obviously knows better. So, and these guys do a tremendous job on that. But there are also specific type of incidents which turned out to be software defects, or as I prefer to call them, bugs. And once this happens, then it's out of scope for the customer support organization, and these tickets get escalated using our internal processes to level 3 organization. So that's when level 3 support kicks in. The mission statement for the L3 team or organization is to provide fast and reliable resolution for complex issues that cannot be solved by level 1 and level 2 support. It's a bit fluffy. I would say that the mission statement in short is to make sure that the bugs are fixed and that the affected customers, partners, parties, whoever, get the resolution as soon as possible, which if it happens to be on the code level. I would say that SUSE has pretty large dedicated L3 organization, which is within engineering. It in fact consists of 3 teams which are distributed around the world, and it also allows us to work around the clock to give our customers the best possible, maybe not the best possible, that would be an overstatement, but we definitely try to make it as good as possible, the support experience, and to shorten the resolution times. There's one direct benefit of having the L3 support organization part of engineering, and that is this direct access of the L3 engineers who happen to be kernel hackers or really open source hackers to other folks in the product engineering teams. And there are hundreds of them currently. The scope is really large. I'll show that pretty much all the products, all enterprise products are eligible to get L3 support, obviously. And this close collaboration, not only with Lynn's organization, but also with the engineering groups, that's what really makes it quite efficient. And I can guarantee that all the R&D engineers, not just those who happen to be in the level 3 support teams, but all of them know very well what L3 support is about. They know that whenever a bug which they receive in Bugzilla is marked as L3, they know that this means that there is a real issue, there is a customer or partner or somebody suffering from some real world trouble, and that ultimately means that this bug gets priority, it gets bumped on their priority list. So it's really well understood what L3 is about, not just by Lynn and me, but pretty much everybody in engineering. So that's what it is. I would also want to mention that for really critical cases which happen to be, happen out of business hours, there's a 24/7 on-call duty service, which ensures that at any single point in time, there is a skilled senior kernel engineer, either from the L3 team or from the labs groups, somebody who is able to jump on the issues and start looking into the core dumps or whatever the issue is about. Yeah, that includes Christmas Eves, but I can tell you that's not the most popular shift, but yeah, we have it covered. Similar to what Lynn said about the volume of service incidents, in case you are wondering what was the number of L3 issues coming through L3 teams last year, it was more than 3,000, so 3,100. And this is growing, hopefully not because the software gets more buggy, but because the scope is getting larger, the customer base is growing, and it's growing pretty fast. So yeah, that's it. Now getting to the PTF, which is, you will hear me saying PTF very often in this presentation. This magical acronym stands for Program Temporary Fix, although I'm pretty sure that most of the engineers in SUSE don't even know what this stands for, because everybody calls it PTF. But yeah, I want to explain why it's important, regardless of what the acronym says. So, if you're a customer who happened to run into some critical situation, or even not a critical situation, but something which triggered a level 3 support, this is what you want to get. This is the quick, targeted fix which is provided to that particular customer or partner before the fix could actually be released using the standard maintenance channels. That's the main deliverable of L3 team, and really that's what you, or well, whoever issue the ticket wants to get, and that's supposed to fix the environment, the server, the whatever. There is a well-defined process behind building the PTFs, the level 3 process, which is designed in a way to guarantee certain properties, which I'm going to talk about just now. So some facts, what I believe you should know about PTFs. First and foremost, PTFs are fully supported. That means if you get a PTF, you don't have to be worried that if you install it, you will lose some guarantees or whatnot. That's not the case. So everybody at SUSE understands that PTFs are first-class citizens or first-class packages. And if you install it into your production environment, nobody will say, hey, there's something which you aren't supposed to have there, remove that. That's not going to happen. So fully supported with a guarantee that the fixes which were included in the PTF will appear in the next maintenance updates. Because if this wasn't the case, then you would hit a regression. And well, we hate regression, and we know that everybody hates regressions. So fully supported, that's the main point. Speaking of regressions, we do our best to only include minimal changes in the PTFs, meaning really cherry-picking the smallest possible fixes, because the bigger the change, the higher the risk of regressions. So sometimes, technically, it would be easier to just, put all the fixes and or take some upstream version and say, there's probably the fix, but that would be a high risk of regression, so that's not happening. Really, there are minimal changes, always minimal changes, although sometimes this is challenging. There is a well-defined workflow behind every L3 incident, and that workflow is guaranteed to be running until we receive a final confirmation from the reporter that the issue, that particular issue was fixed. You might be wondering why this is needed, or why this is kind of, if it's obvious, maybe is, but it might happen that the issue has is not possible to be reproduced in-house. So, engineering might fix something which is a valid bug, but might be something slightly different compared to what was reported. And that's something which we want to avoid, and we really keep that open until we have a final confirmation. Yeah, thank you. This has fixed the issue for us. Only then the workflow is closed, and some other processes in the maintenance are triggered. I'm going to talk about it shortly. Security and integrity, that's guaranteed by the fact that PTFs are built in the same way as the, let's say, regular maintenance updates using the same machinery. So if you wish, you can verify using some cryptographic measures that it's really coming from SUSE, it hasn't been tampered with, that it's genuine. And yeah, well, that's something which is important for, and that's, I'm getting back to this enterprise grade process. Last point, PTFs are customer specific. Meaning that means that PTF, or if an issue is reported by customer A, then the PTF which he gets is not given to any other customers. The reason is, again, this goes, or the reason is minimizing regressions. We do not want to give you some fixes which you don't really need, because, as I said, any fix comes with a certain risk that there will be a regression. So that's why we have the customer specific. This involves a lot of tracking. We know exactly which customer got what fix for which package version, which allows for further stacking of PTFs if there are multiple issues and whatnot. I'm not going into those details, but it's important to understand they are customer specific. Sure.
So you say no fixes are lost. Does this then flow back into your fixes included in the next maintenance release?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to double check that too.
Yeah, there are some interconnections. Yeah, no fixes are lost. That means that's related to the tracking which I mentioned. So there is internal database. We exactly know which customer got what.
Okay, but those are not also customer targeted. Those are actually generic in the next.
I think I will get to that. So if your question is not answered at the end of the presentation, we can get back. Okay? Yeah, please.
So for customer specific, assuming it doesn't go to maintenance, and I can talk about that, but how long are those records that you gained on as far as, say you have a customer you had for 12 years, they had a PTF in year 10, how long will they?
I'm not really sure if I understood the question. So can you?
Historic data of the PTFs that implemented for a specific customer. So if that customer, so you implemented a PTF for them 10 years ago, could they be, can you even tell them what that PTF was? That's curious.
Yeah, we can tell that. So the database goes back into those days, but it's not really needed because there is this guarantee that the PTFs, even if the fixes in the PTFs are customer specific, then they will later on get to the maintenance updates, which is then for all customers. But if your question is whether we can track it back 10 years, I'm pretty sure we can. But nobody really likes to play with that old data. Does it answer the question?
It does.
All right, thanks. Overall, PTFs are designed for production. So if you reported an incident, it got escalated to L3, you got a PTF, I would encourage you to put that into production. Of course, unless instructed otherwise by the support engineer, so there might be reasons why this might not be the best idea, but by default, it's supposed to be installed in production. If you have a test environment or reproduction environment, of course, by all means, it's good to test it first there. There's always small risk that something will break. Yeah, if that's not possible, go for production. That would be one of my key messages here. Some best practices. So the point of this slide is not to go through the details. That's more for the reference if the slides are then published somewhere, which I hope will be the case. The point I'm trying to make here is that PTFs are really an integral part of the support processes, and as such, it's quite well documented, I would say. In case you are having some trouble with installing the PTFs, verifying the signatures, whatnot, go to our knowledge base, type PTF, and there's a fair chance that you will get answers for your questions about the PTF and the process and the best practices how to install them. If I may have one kind of request towards anybody who is kind of the consumer of PTFs, that would be please give us feedback. So obviously we expect that if the PTF is broken, we don't like that, but if it happens or if whatever doesn't fix the issue, then we will hear about that. So this sort of negative feedback, we can count on getting that. But even if it works and you are happy it fixed the problem, please tell us as soon as possible. It's not because we would be depending on a positive feedback and these virtual pats on the back, but because it's essential part of the process. And without the feedback, certain guarantees cannot be fulfilled and the process gets somehow skewed. So please, feedback as soon as possible. That's really helpful. Good, so time-wise, still good. Maybe there are some questions. There seemed to be a question, please.
In case if customer actually has an issue and you provided a PTF, and then later on when customer A updated his system to the next version, and the issue again reproduces.
You mean next, for instance, next service pack?
Yeah, the next service pack, because that PTF is only applicable
Um,
data points.
I get the point. That should not happen. So I can't say that it never happens, but it should not happen. If it does, then it's an exception. The reason why it shouldn't happen is that once the PTF is delivered, and if we get a positive feedback, so that was getting to my point, then it gets on the maintenance radar. I'm going to talk about it, and they should ensure that this particular issue is fixed also in the next service pack or code stream or whatever version. So it might happen, for instance, that the PTF was released very shortly before forking of the next service pack, in which case there would be certain window and this would not be possible to guarantee that, but by default this should not happen.
Let's assume this issue is only applicable in a certain scenario. It's not applicable for every customer out there. Under only certain data points, the issue is reproducible. In that instance, since you mentioned that this PDF could be actually customer specific, will you apply those changes in the next release for all the customers, or will that be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Again, there might be exceptions that some issues might be, let's say, fixable only in some strange way, which would have negative effects on other customers, but that's really happens very rarely. If it happens, we do something which we call one-off PTF, and that's customer specific, but kind of forever. It then never gets included in the maintenance updates because it would be harmful to other customers. So something which we want to avoid at all costs, but if there's good reason to do so, we can do that. We have machinery to do that. All right. So that was about level 3 support, which could be also described as reactive support. I would like to briefly talk about also what we refer to as maintenance at SUSE, which is kind of proactive delivery and proactive pushing of fixes for bugs to customers, because I think it's important to understand how these are connected. As I mentioned, reactive support, proactive support, that's L3 versus maintenance. What is in scope of maintenance? There are engineers within research and development who work as maintenance or security coordinators, and they, on a daily basis, collect information about bugs and their fixes from various sources and decide when to start an update for a particular package, because as you probably are aware, our products consist of thousands or hundreds of packages, so they track it per package on the package basis, which fixes should be included in the next update, and decide when to trigger the next one. These sources of information about bugs and fixes include, well, first and foremost, those issues which were reported using this level 3 support, or level 3 process through, the process which we just described and which were confirmed. So this is why it's really important to provide positive feedback. Also, obviously, various CVE, how's this called? Bulletins, I think. This information about security issues affecting the packages which are in the product. It's evaluated whether those particular versions are affected. If so, then they are put on the list of of fixes to be included. Also, known bugs which were not reported by the customers, but which we know should be fixed in order to avoid the customers hitting them later on, they are also included from time to time. So these would be the sources of information, or pools of fixes which are being considered for the next update. Some principles and goals behind maintenance and behind this decision on when the updates should be triggered and what should be in there. The tricky part is to find the right balance between timely releases and number of updates, because it might be on one hand kind of tempting to release the fixes as soon as they are ready without waiting for the next one to accumulate, but this would result in, I would say, hundreds or thousands of patches released every day, and that's something which would be unbearable. So that's not how it works. So it's about really finding the right balance to make it comfortable for our customers, keeping in mind constraints like maintenance windows and whatnot. Again, regressions, everybody hates them. It's I don't want to say a challenge, but well, yeah, it is a challenge in a way that the bigger the bug fix or the more bug fixes are accumulated, the bigger is the change and the higher is the risks of introducing the regression. So the mitigations which we have in place, of course, the obvious one is quality assurance. I will get to that later on. Something which I could also mention here is that quite recently we introduced a special dedicated emergency maintenance updates task force, which is a group of engineers who are dedicated to really jumping on any possible regression which kind of went through QA or which QA didn't catch, and as soon as possible to re-release the update without the regression. So that's been a big improvement quite recently. Not go into that. Of course, with maintenance updates, we need to ensure stable API and ABI, meaning application programming interface and binary interface, because if this was not the case, then the third-party applications would stop working, and that would definitely be a bug and something which I guess nobody would like. So that also sometimes could be a challenge, because some of the fixes require or by default require changing of the interface, so we need to do some workarounds, but yeah, that should be transparent to our customers. Alrighty, quality assurance. Every maintenance update, in order to avoid regression, so every maintenance update has to go through a huge set of manual and automated tests, including installation tests, which ensure that the maintenance update could be installed even in some obscure environments without issues. Really all the fixes which are supposed to be there are verified to be really there by reproducing the bugs if that's possible, and ensuring that they are no longer reproducible with the patch. Regression tests, that's the most difficult one. That means that pretty much all the maintenance updates have to go through some automated machinery which tests whether the systems keep working in the common use cases. So yeah, and these regression test suites are being expanded based on information about the past bugs. So that's what we try to do. This is my last slide, and if I may, to have a recommendation or maybe request, if that's the right word, it would be these three things. So please try to install maintenance updates as soon as possible. We fully realize that it's not realistic to expect that it's always done immediately after release because of the maintenance windows and other things. But expecting that systems which are working do not need to be patched, I dare to say that's not the right approach. So that would be something how to avoid escalations. Really don't. The bugs are waiting there, and they are waiting for the least convenient moment. Please treat PTFs as first-class packages. As I said, they are fully supported. There are certain guarantees. Yeah, I admit that. motto of this conference is open, open, open. So let me be open. There sometimes are issues, but we do our best to minimize them. So please, the benefits outweigh the risks, in my opinion. And as I mentioned, please provide feedback. Positive, negative, the sooner the better. That would be it. And handing back to you, Lynn.
Yes.
If there are questions to L3, I would be happy to answer at the end or maybe even after the session in the hallway. Thank you.
A couple things that